I do think you need some more troops in Afghanistan, but I don't think the situation's at all comparable. For example, it's not that you could partition Kabul, build walls between neighborhoods, and somehow stop violence, because it's not about Kabul. It's about the rest of the country. So you have an entirely different kind of problem you're working with. More fundamentally, even in Afghanistan, you need economic hope. Afghanistan is entirely different than Iraq. Iraq has all that oil. It was a wealthy country to begin with, and it was a secular country. It's held together by an autocratic ruler. Afghanistan is not. It's a tribal country. It's never had a strong central government. So it's an entirely different set of circumstances. You can't apply a cookie-cutter solution. But that's not to say you may not need some more troops. It's just that, just as in the case of Iraq, in Afghanistan, you don't win by killing people. And this is my basic criticism of the Republican and the McCain propositions. Is it seems to rely on, this is like Friday Night Lights, you know? It's a bunch of high school boys suited up in uniform, go out there and make some hard tackles and hit them hard, and you'll blow them out of the stadium, and then you come back on the bus and the town will cheer for you. That's not what this is. We're not going to gain much by expanding the war to Pakistan. First of all, the border region is huge. It's double the size of the troubled area in Afghanistan. So if it takes 3 more brigades, now it's going to take 10 more brigades to deal with the border. We don't have those troops. We're not going to occupy it. We'd be with a bunch of other people that we don't know, can't recognize, don't speak their language. So why do we want to do that? The best thing to do is recognize that Pakistan is a political society of 170 million people with nuclear weapons. They've got to get a grip on their own life, and that means without interference from us. So what I would propose doing is strengthening the interdiction capability along that border, whatever it takes. Sensors, fences, walls, more patrols, making sure everybody who lives along there is known and tracked. We did this along the inter-German border during the Cold War. There was a 5K zone that you couldn't get within 5 kilometers of the border without special authority unless you lived there and so forth. This is the kind of thing that we would want to do, and then let the Pakistanis, as much as possible, handle their own issues. Now, if it turns out that we do have solid intelligence, then I'm not saying you would never do something, but my advice was make it deniable. If there's a big explosion and 20 people in a wedding party are killed and they look up in the sky and it's an American drone circling overhead, that's not deniable. That's what prevents the government of Pakistan from mobilizing its public opinion to go against the insurgents. So we have to give Pakistan space to work. Well, I think you do have to talk to them, as Barack Obama said, without preconditions. It doesn't mean you don't do preparation. It doesn't mean you don't work it up. And maybe when you try to work it up, you'll never get to the head of state level discussions. That's fine. But you do need to have a dialogue with them without telling them that before you'll talk to them, they have to agree to everything in advance and execute it. I mean, people won't do that. That's an excuse to prevent you from talking. So in the case of Iran, for example, the Bush administration said, we won't talk to you unless you stop enriching uranium. Well, that's what the talks were going to be about. So for them to do that, and you know, the Bush administration would answer, say, well, we're not asking them to stop it, just to pause it. That's not an acceptable answer. The truth is that you have to talk to people. It may be that it doesn't work out with diplomacy with Iran. I hope it does, because I don't want to think about the consequences. But maybe it doesn't. But if we do have to move to other measures against Iran, we shouldn't and we can't legitimately do it unless all diplomatic means have been exhausted. They haven't been exhausted yet.